I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I do not like Sonic Frontiers. I have beaten the main story and gotten very far into the extra content, which is basically kind of like the DLC. It's like the after story with the other characters. But I quickly lost interest for many reasons, and I will get into those reasons later in this video. So Sonic Frontiers is a very different type of Sonic game than what we are used to. It was in development for 5 years, I believe, and the codename was originally called Sonic Rangers, which sparked endless memes from the fan base. There were a lot of leaks and it seemed to have a lot of promise, and people began to have a lot of hope for this. Understandably, some people had low expectations from their experience with the dumpster fire that is Sonic Forces. And this new Sonic Rangers game was supposedly very different from anything in the past and focused on exploration and open world based on those leaks we've gotten. Eventually, Sega dropped an official trailer and the game was called Sonic Frontiers. Fast forward to November 8, 2022, when the game Sonic Frontiers released, and the reception was definitely very mixed. A lot of people liked it for its heavy exploration aspect, visuals, story, and soundtrack. And it actually sold really good, was selling 3.5 million copies by May 2023. So let's talk about the story just a little bit. And there will be spoilers, but honestly, the story is very minimum, so it's not like there's much to spoil. Anyway, so basically, in a sense, Eggman travels to this island called Starfall Island and does Eggman shit. He does Eggman things. He uploads Sage, which is an AI, yeah, that new character, that digital type S robot character, female. It's actually an AI, pretty sentient AI. He uploads Sage into a portal, and then bad things happen as usual. And basically, they both get dragged into an artificial dimension called Cyberspace. Sonic and Tails and Amy investigate the activity with the cast almost because they triggered the thing that's been going on with Eggman. So they investigate it, and basically they get sucked into a wormhole to cyberspace. Sonic, I guess, escapes and ends up in an island in the real world, but his friends are stuck in like a different plane of existence, that being called the digital world. So he has to collect these emeralds, to collect the chaos emeralds, and fight these robotic titans to remove the boundary between the real and the digital world, hoping this will save his friends. And that's basically the story. That's pretty much the story, pretty basic and simple. Now, the gameplay is very different from past games, very different. So basically, in a sense, like I said earlier, it's a very like Breath of the Wild, like Zelda Breath of the Wild type of gameplay. You basically, it's about exploration. You run around, you fight these robotic titans, and there's different types of titans. Like each of them require you to beat them a different way. And I'll be honest, some of the ways you defeat these things are actually they're pretty cool. You defeat them in different ways, but you just run around the island. You run around aimlessly collecting these items, and there's like four islands, and each island there's like a character that's on the island. So the first island, which is like Chronos Island or whatever like that, Amy is on the island. You have to collect these Amy tokens that's scattered across the whole island. Then you collect these tokens, and you like advance the story or whatever. There's no story to really advance. It's basically like you get to talk. You collect a certain amount of them, and you get to like talk to Amy or whatever like that. And she just mentions like miscellaneous things. It's not things. Some of them is like cold hurt to the story, but like really it's mostly just miscellaneous, just sidetrack things that she talks about with Sonic. Like they may like talk about something in the past, like in the past game, but it's really nothing important to the story. It's just miscellaneous stuff. And so many times of you talking to Amy, I guess you'll like unlock these keys that you go in these cyberspace levels, which I'll talk about those later, to these cyberspace levels. And ultimately there's like altars in these islands and with chaos emeralds, and you get these chaos summons and you get them all or whatever. You turn to supersonic and you fight like the boss of each island, and you do that every island you go to. One island it'll be Tails, who's the, you know what I'm saying, the main character focus of the island. You collect Tails tokens, and then there's another island there's Knuckles. You collect Knuckles tokens, and then like the final island is Sage. You collect Sage tokens, and you kind of do that just for the rest of the game, but 90% of the game, you're just running around each island, just collecting these tokens. You know, you collect these tokens and you fight these titans, and that's all you do. You just run around, collect tokens. Now, you do fight these titans. Like, basically, Sonic's fighting style is like kind of like a beat 'em up type of fighting style. You can like homing into enemies. You can punch them, kick them. It's, you know what I'm saying? He's a fast brawler type of. It's pretty cool, but that's all you do the whole game is just running around, exploring, and that's all you do. I'm trying to tell you that's all you do is just run around for hours, collecting tokens, and the novelty. And it's cool at first. It's cool at first to kind of like, you know what I'm saying, you run around. Oh, it's cool. Like, let me explore over here. Let me explore over here. And you do these things, these like little these time trials, which is basically essentially you do like little things, and you get like these little like dings, or it's like you get these tokens, not token, but you get these items, and you can like level up your character and skills and defense or speed or whatever like that. It has a little bit of RPG aspect to it, but that's all you do, guys. You run around for hours in these islands collecting tokens to advance the story, and it gets old very quickly. Like the novelty, the novelty of being Sonic and exploring, and it gets old very quickly. And then you go into these cyberspace levels, which is basically like each island has like maybe like 4 of them, maybe 5 like cyberspace levels. They're basically like they're your boost levels. They're like your levels from Generations, Unleashed. I guess kind of colors. You just run around. You just get to the end of it. It has like these red star coins, these red star rings that we're used to in the previous games. There's like 5 of them a level, but there's no point in collecting them unless you want to get that S rank. There's no point in collecting them. You don't. So they remove boosting. They remove drifting. You can no longer drift in these cyberspace levels. You can no longer drift, and boosting into enemies don't defeat the enemy. So don't boost into the robots, because the robots aren't defeated by boost anymore. And he's actually kind of slower, to be honest. I mean, they tweaked a lot of the boost gameplay in this game. It's not worse, but it's not better either. It's kind of weird. You got to play it for yourself. But you can no longer like boosting no longer defeats the enemies. You have to actually home into them now. And actually like it's kind of no point into like trying to defeat the enemy, because you like waste time doing it. It takes time to like boost into to like homing into these enemies. Like it's quicker if you're trying to like do like a speed run. It's quicker to just avoid the enemies altogether. Like don't even like try to beat them. It's quicker to just kind of just avoid them. And that's it. The cyberspace levels aren't even that fun. They're not fun really at all. Like if you want a good boost game experience, it's better to just play Unleashed or Generations. Like these cyberspace levels aren't really that fun. The music is actually horrible. The music is like pretty much non-existent. It's actually pretty trash music in these cyberspace levels. But but going back to what you do on these islands, you just run around, collect things, run around, collecting. That's all you do for the most. 90% of the game is just you running around, collecting tokens, and the story barely advances because there's next to no story. These new creatures called Cocos or whatever like that, they're kind of like basically like they're related to chaos in a way, but the game doesn't like talk about that through the cutscenes. It's like the lore about these new creatures and things like that. You have to learn more about that through like these like hidden files, and it's like you have to actually like do work to actually like unlock like the secrets and the lore about these characters, because the story doesn't talk about them. The story, like, if for whatever reason the story is like the game story, it likes to hide it. It likes to hide the lore. It tells you like very minimalistic information, and you have to do the work yourself to find out like more lore about these characters and things like that. and it's pretty pathetic. Like it's pretty pathetic. And the thing about these islands, there's like different islands. There's like one island. This is like the first island. I think it's called Kronos Island, where you meet Amy. She's the main focus of this island. You collect these Amy tokens, but each island has like a different theme to it. There's one island where it's like, your green, grassy, first stage type of island. And then there's another island where it's like focus on like dust and dirt and like, like mountains. This is a very like brown, mountainy area, which is like, I think it has knuckles or tails. And there's another island where it's like volcano focus, fire, volcano focus. So every island has like a different theme to it, but these islands are very bland. Like the scenery is very bland. It doesn't feel like a Sonic game. You know how like in previous games like Sonic Adventure, like each stage like Windy Valley or the Sky Deck, they have like different themes to them. Like it feels like a Sonic game in like a real world perspective. Or even like games like Sonic Heroes, like each stage has like a theme to it. They look like Sonic games. The background, the scenery, they have Sonic aspects to them. This game, these islands have no aspect of a Sonic game. They're just barren wastelands. There's no NPCs. There's no like I guess the only NPCs at this point is like Sonic is like Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, but I'll get to them being playable later on this video. But there's no like NPCs that you could talk to, interact to. There's like no like animals or creatures flying around in the background. It's just very barren, man. It's just it doesn't. These islands don't look aesthetically pleasing. They don't look like Sonic game type of levels. Like they're very, very boring, and it gets old very quick. Like there's nothing special about these islands. They're just very empty wasteland islands, and you have to run around these islands for hours just collecting tokens, collecting these character tokens to advance what little of the story there is. And then there's like it gets old very quickly. For me, I got tired of it. Do like the second island, I stopped playing the game. I uninstalled it. But then like after like maybe 3 weeks later, I got back to it because I'm like, maybe there's gonna be some type of payoff. Maybe there's gonna be some type of huge revelation or secret that gets revealed later on in the game. So my whole determination of beating this game was for that hypothetical, like, what if, secret or, something that gets revealed, something pays off and nothing really pays off at the end. So like once you get all the emeralds in each island you have to get these emeralds and you fight the final boss of each island. It's not the final, but you fight this boss of each island. You turn into Super Sonic and like you fight these titans and things like that. These like giant titans, and this Super Sonic in this game is very nerfed. Like they nerf the power level of Super Sonic in this game. He's invincible, like he doesn't take damage, but at the same time he has like a time limit, I believe, and he's very nerfed. Like he's very nerfed. I don't understand why they nerfed him in this game, but he's very nerfed in this game. And it's cool fighting some of these titans, but some of them are like kind of like ridiculous. It gets like some of them have like these quick time events that gets like ridiculous. Some of them are cool, it's fun, but the novelty wears off very quickly because it's very repetitive. The whole theme of this game is pretty much repetitiveness. The novelty of being supersonic, it wears off very quickly. You can't be supersonic throughout the stage, throughout the island. You only be supersonic when you fight these bosses and things like that. So then when you beat the boss of the island, you go to the next island. The cast almost they get dispersed amongst the next island. You got to do the same thing you did the first island. You got to do the same thing you do every island. You got to talk to the next character. It might be Tails and Knuckles. You got to collect Tails and Knuckles tokens, and do the cyberspace levels and run around doing these little silly time trials and collecting these tokens. And then you talk to Tails and Knuckles. They talk about nothing that actually advances the story. They talk about like miscellaneous things and random things that honestly you could go through the game without even knowing about what they're talking about, because it's insignificant. Like, who cares really? And then you, like I say, you collect you collect enough of these tokens, you do enough of these cyberspace levels, and you go to an altar and you get a castle, and you got to do that thing over and over and over again until you get all the emeralds and you fight the boss of that island, turn into supersonic, and that's what you do the whole game. That's what you do. Now let's talk about the music. Let's talk about the music. The music is horrible. This music is pretty much non-existent. Each island has like music that plays in the background, but it's like not even noticeable because like it's like stock music really that plays in these islands. Is pretty much non-existent. The cyberspace levels have different music per like different levels, but the music is like very like non-existent. It's literally like elevator music. None of it is special. They don't really sound like Sonic game music. They don't sound like games from like Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Advance, the Genesis games, like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Heroes. Like this game doesn't have any type of soundtrack that even sounds like a Sonic game. The music that plays in these cyberspace levels are boring. They're boring. They're disgrace. They really are a disgrace to Sonic, and it's like it makes you want to fall asleep. And then coupled with the fact that the gameplay of these cyberspace levels isn't even really fun, you have like poor gameplay. On top of that, you have like poor music. It's just a really boring experience. The music in the game is horrible. Draw off the bosses when you fight like the bosses when you're supersonic. It has like an actual like orchestrated like lyric song that plays, but the song is very uninspiring. It's boring. There's no like rhythm to it. There's no like feeling of excitement. You know how you play a game like Sonic Adventure, you got songs like Open Your Heart, It Doesn't Matter. Sonic Adventure 2, you got sounds like Live and Learn, and the character songs. Even in Sonic Heroes, like how each team had their own like theme song to them, and then you had like the main theme of Sonic Heroes and so on and so forth with the other Sonic games. This game has its own like sound to it, its own like little like theme, its own like soundtrack, its own like I think the guy who made music for like a good number of Sonic games, he made the music for this game too. But it's just like he's past his prime. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore, and it's like it doesn't sound like what he used to make anymore. The music is just very, very bad. It's very bad. There's no excitement to it. Like when you're listening to it, you don't feel pumped up. You don't feel excitement. It's just very, very bad. It's uninspiring. It's very dull. There's no like excitement, any joy to it. It's just very boring. It's just very boring music. The whole soundtrack of this game is very boring. It's tasteless. It doesn't taste like anything. It's vanilla. It's basic. There's no tone to it. There's no attitude to any of the music. There's nothing to it. The whole soundtrack of the game is very boring. The story is boring. The gameplay is very monotonous. You run around in a barren wasteland in these islands that don't really feel like things from a Sonic game. Like at least Sonic Adventure, like you had like Mr. Ruins, Station Square. But even with Station Square, like you had NPCs that you can talk to and things like that. That was kind of an exciting feature. You had like items like these random like child eggs that you can find randomly, like gold and black and silver child egg that you can find and bring to the child garden. Cause like each like like section of the game, like Station Square had a child garden, right? Mystic Ruins, I had a Mystic Ruins child garden. Even on like the egg carrier, you had an egg carrier child garden. You know what I mean? Like it was fun to run around. And then even like you run around the Mystic Ruins, you go to like the Master Emerald. You can see the Master Emerald. Like it's fun when you run around in these like sections and Sonic Adventure, because you can talk to NPCs. You can find these child eggs. It's interactive, like you do things to unlock the next stage. Like it's fun. It's fun. And then you see like different Sonic characters, but it's not like these characters like Sonic with Tails, Amy, Knuckles. Like they're not in no second plane or anything like that. You can see them, you can talk. It's fun. This game is very boring. You have no NPCs you can talk to. Like it's like no animals, nothing you can really interact with. It's very boring, man. And then they don't feel like Sonic stages. They're just, and then you run around these empty, barren wastelands for the entirety of the game. the entirety of the game. What you do is run around collecting tokens. You did it for hours, guys. That's all you do. Like I'm very disappointed with this game, really, guys. And it's funny because a lot of people know me as like this staunch defender of Sonic. Like I do nothing but defend Sonic. Like every Sonic on the game in my eyes is pure and holy. No, this game is an abomination. It's like it's ridiculous. And then like the fighting, like the combat. The combat is like very beat 'em up. You run across these titans and you fight him, and then he can like he does these things, and like it's fun at first, but like I said, it gets old very quickly. Like he has one move where he can like shoot out like lasers and things like that. Like it's never explained how he can do it. Like I can get around the fact that he can run at super speeds and he can like fight you. He can run so fast. It's like after images that beats up the enemy. That makes sense. But there's a move where he can just suspend himself in there and just shoot out things from his hands. And it's like, make it make sense, guys. Like he has these moves, and it's like the game doesn't explain. He had certain moves he has. It's like he has powers. He can just like shoot things out of his hands and things like that. And it's like the game never explains how he's able to do these things. You just have to just suspend belief and just go with the flow. Just and then like I say, each Titan, there's like you're like grunt titans that you fight, and it's like basic attacks, kind of just beat them, no big deal. But then there's like these different type of titans where it's like semi-boss titans or whatever like that require a little bit more strategy. Like each of these semi-boss titans, these mini boss titans, some of them we have to like chase around and run around. Some of them we have to like treat them like it's like a God of War boss and things like that. I will say they are very creative in how you beat some of these titans. Some of these titans are actually pretty fun to fight. Some of them are, but I wouldn't want to fight the same titans more than 2 times. It gets old like very quickly, like I said. But some of them are really, they have put a lot of creativity into how you beat some of these titans, some of the designs. It's just the fact that like, like once you beat them like more than 2 times, like the novelty kind of just wears off. So you might be asking yourself, okay, well, like what is Eggman doing for this game? Like, so he's stuck in a cyber dimension, kind of like, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, and he's trying to get out, but Sage is trying to help him get out. Eggman's not really doing anything. He just needs Sage to help him out. So it's just, the game has no plot to it. There's no really like, there's nothing really interesting about the game. There's nothing to like make you want to keep playing the game. I think the only people who like this game are people who like brainless games like Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you run around aimlessly doing things, but like you don't do anything in this game. You just run around, and it's like Sonic games are meant for like high speed action, platforming, great story. This game has none of those aspects. The story is piss poor. Barely has a story. You actually have to do work yourself to find out lore about what's going on, because the game doesn't explain to you through these cutscenes. There isn't really even any cutscenes, really. Like the cutscenes don't really even explain it. They're like nonsense cutscenes. They're like filler cutscenes. Cutscenes that don't even explain anything about the story, anything. You have to do work yourself. The story is piss poor. The gameplay is monotonous. Games like Sonic Adventure, Sonic Heroes, Sonic, the 2D Sonic game, they all have like great gameplay, but this game is just monotonous. You run around collecting character tokens, and that's it, guys. You fight these titans, and that's pretty much it. The music is like brain dead. The music is non-existent. The music is horrible. Like you have games like Sonic Adventure with like great music. I love the soundtrack in Sonic Adventure. I love the soundtrack in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Heroes has a good soundtrack. Shadow the Hedgehog has an amazing soundtrack. Sonic 06, which is a controversial game, but that game had a good soundtrack. Sonic 06 unleashed good soundtrack. This game has a piss poor soundtrack. I can't think of not one song that played in the entirety of this game that was actually pretty decent. Like a lot of it is just like boring music. It's boring stock elevated music. So you guys know how like you get a new phone or you get like a new computer, and that phone or computer will have like music like that's like the default stock music that's already installed on the computer. That's what this game has. Like it's like stock music and things like that. It's not really fun. And then the lyrical or orchestrated songs is like very boring. It's vanilla. It sounds like the artist was forced. He had a gun to his head. And he was forced to make this music. Like they're not inspired at all. They have no creativity to them. They're just very boring music. They're very boring noise. It's noise. It's not even music. It's noise. And then ultimately, once you do all four islands and things like that, I think the last island, Sage, is like the character focus of that island. You collect Sage tokens and things like that. And like I said earlier, guys, Sage is a AI. She's an artificial intelligence with some type of like sentience to her. Like she can self-learn throughout with everything that's going on or whatever. And like I said, you get all the character modes of that island, you fight the final boss, and you go out in space. And the final, and I beaten the game on normal difficulty, and the final boss is like very easy. It's very easy, and like it's ridiculous how easy the final boss is, guys. It's like Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure was a harder boss. You know, the Bio Lizard or whatever from Sonic Adventure 2 was a harder boss. Metal Sonic Overlord from Sonic Hero was a harder boss. Black Doom from Shadow Hedgehog was a harder boss. Like this game has one of the most easiest final bosses in any Sonic game you've ever played. And if people are like, okay, well, L, you gotta, you have to, if you fought the boss in hard mode as like an extra thing to it, like I shouldn't have to play a game on hard mode to have a little bit of. It's not an excuse. It's not a valuable excuse. The final boss is ridiculous. It's boring. And then once you beat the final boss, there's no payoff. There's no grand revelation. There's no secret to be revealed. It's nothing, guys. It's nothing. It's just a boring game altogether. Like the base game is very boring, very uninspiring. You run around for hours. You collect tokens and you explore nothing because there's nothing to really explore. And the people defend this game talking about, oh, it's as great exploration. Like you explore barren wastelands, like exploring barren, just running around aimlessly is fun. That's not fun. This game is not fun. Just running around for hours and like an uninspired, unfinished level, these islands or whatever. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun. And then you beat the final boss, expecting some type of payoff and some type of thing to happen, and nothing happens. He just meets the characters, and that's the end of the game. And if you've paid attention, like, after the game was released, Sega has said that they were going to release like extra content or whatever like that, like a thing where you can like change the soundtrack of different tracks in other Sonic games. That could be the background music. But that's just something that kind of should have been in the base game. So I'm not really gonna. They've added like extra like little like miscellaneous shit like with extra deals, not even DLC, but it's just content. It's free content, so I will give them that. They gave us free content, but there's shit that doesn't matter. They gave us like a photo mode. Who cares? Shit that's like cool to have but should be in the base game. It's just like shit that like who cares about shit? Who cares about type stuff? But like the big thing that they gave us was like this extra story, not extra, but it's like a continuation of the last story, whatever like that. I guess that the characters like Tails, Amy, and Knuckles aren't exactly saved yet. So I'm not gonna really talk about the story of this like extra story or whatever because there is no story. So I'll just skip straight to the gameplay. So basically you're able to be Amy, Knuckles, and Tails, and they all have their own, move sets and things about them. Like Amy is kind of fast. She doesn't really use her hammer. She uses like the tarot cards because if you pay attention to the Amy lore, Amy actually, she likes like tarot cards. You know what I'm saying? So in this game, she utilizes these tarot cards. She does use the hammer. A lot of people complain about that. I personally don't really care. Really, I mean, I think it's cool to play as Amy, but like I said, it's cool to play Amy, but the novelty kind of wears off because as you do in this extra story, you do the same thing you've done in the original story as you were Sonic. You run around collecting things to advance the story, to advance the non-exist story, just to advance the game. That's all you do. You know what I'm saying? You just run around, collect stuff, and you have to like reach a certain. And there's like these like things that you. There's like there's like when you're these characters, like, so the game will have you start off as Amy. You don't just really switch between the different characters. You just start off as Amy, and then I guess like after you get a certain amount of these, you have to like there's like these random platforms or whatever like that that's like suspended in air or whatever like that. You have to go to like specific points and this island and things like that. And once you go to these specific points, it like advances to the next session, to the game, to the next section of the game or whatever like that. But the problem is that like these random platforms and the game doesn't explain to you where to go. You have to just aimlessly run around to find out where to go. And like the game gives you like a marker eventually to tell you where to go and things like that. But the problem is like there's no clear path on how to get to where you're supposed to go. All of these obstacles and these not obstacles, but all these platforms and these suspended things is just randomly scattered in like in the sky and around these islands. There's no like direct specific path where to go to. You just have to do like a bunch of just ricochet and just random platforming to get where you're supposed to go. And that's my main problem with this like extra story stuff with the different characters. Like you have to like all these platforms just randomly scattered. It feels like the game. It feels like this isn't even finished. Like you're running through like a beta or something like that. Because trust me, guys, they're randomly scattered. Like they're literally randomly scattered. And people are saying things like, "Oh, I spent hours on this story. It has good content. It has good replayability. Or it's lengthy because they spent hours on it. They spent hours on it because the game has a piss poor job of directing you on when you're supposed to go. The game relies off of you doing ricochet ass fucking platforming. I'm talking you're platforming on things that aren't really meant to even be platformed on. You'll jump from one platform all the way like 20 feet away to another platform, 5 feet away to another platform, and that's not even the like intended way to do it. It's just like you have to like jump on just random platforms and just boost and do these random ricochet moves to get to where you have to go because these platforms are randomly scattered. They're just randomly, copied and pasted onto different points of this island. There's no clear path on where to get to this point or the point that where you're supposed to go to, and that's how it is with Tails, Amy, and Knuckles. It's just random platforming. And Knuckles is the worst to play as, man. I like Knuckles, but he's the worst to play as because he doesn't really jump as high as the others. And like his gliding is actually like really bad. He glides downward. Like we all know he glides downward when he plays games, but he immediately glides downward. Like he doesn't glide in like he doesn't glide like in like an elevated like up in like a neutral like point. He glides like straight down. He doesn't like. I'm not expecting him to glide up, but he when he glides, it's like he immediately just glides downward. You know what I mean? And he's like the worst to kind of play as. He could punch, but it's like each character has like I said, like different move sets and things like that. And what I hate about this is that like I said, the reason why I stopped, I kind of just dropped this extra like story because like I'm playing as Knuckles and I know that the game shows me a marker on where I'm supposed to go. But the problem is that, like I said, there's no clear path, and I found myself just running around like 2 hours straight trying to get to this point where I'm supposed to go. But the game does a piss poor job of telling me how to get to that point. Like it's just a bunch of random like platforming. There's a bunch of just random like rails and platforms and boosts and just rings and things like that. There's no clear path. There is no clear path on how to get to these markers on where you're supposed to go. It's just random ricochet platform. It's everything about this X story is really random, guys. It doesn't tell you what to do or how to get to where you're supposed to go. It doesn't tell you you basically just a random character you're dropped and it's an island and the map is completely unfilled out. You have to fill out yourself by running around, collecting things, and doing these time travels, and it's just really, it's monotonous. It's monotonous. The same problems that we're in the present, and the same problem that were in the base story when you were just Sonic is the same exact problems you were here. The only problem is that you're being different characters. So it's a cool little switch up to be different characters, but the problems that were in the same story still are still here. The Sega thinks that like they can say Sega's perspective is like their mentality is that like let's have a game to where the map is not filled out. You fit out yourself by doing stupid time trials, and you have to do the stupid things like collect these tokens or whatever like that, and it takes time. There's no like there's no like clear path to go to, so you have to do you have to do bootleg ricochet platforming on randomly scattered platforms and rails to get to where you need to go. And it's like you do trial and you do that trial and error for hours, and that's Sega's way of saying this like this is a lengthy game. It's like artificial difficulty because you're like it's like you're trying to beat a game that's not finished. Like there should be more platforms. There should be like a clear path on where to go. I'm not saying the game needs to do it like in baby steps, but it's like there's no path. There's like nothing is clear. It's like random ricochet platforming, guys. It's ridiculous. It's like it's artificial difficulty. It takes longer to beat the game because the game isn't finished. You have to beat it in your own way, and that's my main problem that's my main problem with this like extra story or whatever like that, and why I dropped it. And the music, like I said, there's no real added music in this extra story. The same boring, dull, vanilla soundtrack that was in the base game, and that was in the base game. That's why I don't like Sonic Frontiers, guys. Like, I gave it a shot. I beat the main story. I gave the extra story an honest chance. I gave it. I will say this. I do give props to Sega for making the extra story free. Like it's not paid DLC. It's free. Like it's just a free update. It's an update, and after the update you get the story, the extra story with Tails, Amy, Knuckles playable, and that's cool that it's for free. But the problem is that like it's like unfinished. It's random. You run around for hours collecting bullshit, jumping on platforms that are scattered and just so far like space between each other, between the different platforms. You have to do bootleg ricochet platform to get to where you need to go. It's monotonous. It's doing that for hours straight is very tiring. It doesn't feel like a. The only thing Sonic game about this is just the fact that you're being Sonic character. It feels like you're playing Breath of the Wild. It feels like a Breath of the Wild mod, but with Sonic into it. Like you modded Link, like you modded Sonic in it instead of Link. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a Sonic game. Like Sonic game, they usually have good music. This game has horrible music. They usually have a good story. The game has like a non-existent story. They usually have good platforming, good action, fast-paced action. The game doesn't have that. It has these cyberspace levels that like aren't fun. Oh, and the extra story, like there are no cyberspace levels in this extra story. Like those boost type stages you be as Sonic, they don't exist when you be Knuckles, Tails, and Amy. They just do not exist. When you be Knuckles, Tails, and Amy, it's literally just running around the island, not doing shit. You're running around collecting tokens, trying to find out where to go. Okay, I know where to go, but there's no clear platform to get there. You have to do a bunch of bootleg ricochet. And I know I'm sounding like very repetitive, but I'm just frustrated with this game. It's not a Sonic game. It's not. It doesn't play like a Sonic game. It doesn't sound like a Sonic game. It doesn't look like a Sonic game. That's my main problem with this game. It's horrible all around the board. And in this extra update, they added like a battle rush to it, which I guess is basically like you just fight all the bosses or whatever like that. I mean, I didn't really try that because I have no interest in replaying the bosses. I don't care. Added like an arcade mode, which is basically like you do all the cyberspace levels that you've already completed. I don't care because I don't like the cyberspace levels, like these levels where you basically like is boost type levels. I don't care because they're not really that fun. Some of them are short, very short. Some of them are a little bit long, but they're very boring. Like there's some of them are like Green Hill Zone. One of them are like it's like Sky Sanctuary. Another one was like I guess like Crisis City, more Green Hill. Another one was like Chemical Plant, more Green Hill. You get the point, guys. They're not fun, guys. It might be fun the first time or two, but the novelty wears off. They're not fun. You can't drift. Boosting into enemies actually hurts you. You can't boost into enemies no more. And you can only home on the enemies to beat the enemies. And it's like if you're trying to speed run, it's better just avoid the enemy because these homing attacks is like slow and it takes time. It's like it's boring, guys. This game is just a boring game, man. I'm really disappointed in this game. I'm really disappointed. Very disappointed. Story is ass. Gameplay is monotonous. It's repetitive. You're just running around. Garbage. You know, stage is garbage. Music garbage. Soundtrack is garbage. This game is like, if I had to give this game from a 1 to a 10, honestly, I just say like, maybe like a 6 out of 10 to be honest. I give it a 6 out of 10. Like I think so here's what I think, guy. I think if you're like not really a fan of Sonic, or you're a fan of like Dark Souls and Breath of the Wild and these like I guess The Witcher and shit like that. If you're a fan of games where you just run around and explore and shit like that, if you like those games, you're gonna like this game. But if you like Sonic game where you're just like it's like action and like running around and like fast paced and good story and like an immersive soundtrack, this game isn't for you. It's not for you. If you're looking for actual substance, this game isn't for you. If you're looking to just like run around for no reason, this game is perfect for you guys. 6 out of 10. Horrible game, horrible experience. It's fucking garbage.